Imagine waking up in a locked room with no memory of how you got there. The last thing you remember is accepting a drink from a stranger. Your mind is racing, your thoughts are unraveling, and the walls seem to be closing in. You're not in a horror movie, you're in a real CIA experiment. And the man behind it all? A soft-spoken chemist named Sidney Gottlieb, also known as the CIA's poisoner-in-chief. Sidney Gottlieb was no ordinary scientist. He didn't work in a lab making life-saving medicine. Instead, he ran a secret program that destroyed lives. MKUltra, the CIA's mind control experiment that involved LSD, torture, and psychological manipulation. His mission? To turn humans into mindless puppets that could be controlled at will. What started as Cold War paranoia spiraled into some of the most disturbing experiments in U.S. history. During the 1950s, the U.S. government was terrified that the Soviet Union had discovered mind control techniques. The CIA believed that if America didn't crack the code first, they'd be left defenseless in psychological warfare. Gottlieb was given unlimited resources to test anything, no matter how inhumane, if it meant creating a real-life Manchurian candidate, someone who could be controlled like a robot and made to spy, kill, or confess secrets without even knowing it. To achieve this, the CIA secretly dosed thousands of unsuspecting people with LSD. Mental patients, prisoners, and even everyday citizens. They lured victims into fake brothels, drugged them, and watched through one-way mirrors. Some victims were left permanently insane. Others never made it out alive. And the worst part? The US government covered it all up. Gottlieb wasn't just experimenting with mind control. He was perfecting psychological torture. His techniques inspired waterboarding, extreme isolation, and electric shock therapies still used in interrogations today. He even worked with Nazi scientists who had tortured prisoners during World War II, helping them escape prosecution in exchange for their knowledge. Some of the most disturbing MKUltra experiments didn't happen in secret CIA black sites. They happened in normal hospitals and universities across America and Canada, where doctors were bribed to test on patients. One infamous case involved psychologist Dr. Ewan Cameron, who used electroshock and sensory deprivation to erase people's memories. Patients who checked in for simple depression left as shells of their former selves. One victim was Frank Olson, a U.S. military scientist who began having mental breakdowns after being secretly dosed with LSD. Days later, he mysteriously fell from a New York hotel window. The CIA called it suicide. His family believed he was murdered to keep MKUltra a secret. Even decades later, his death remains unsolved. Gottlieb wasn't just experimenting on Americans. His reach extended to South America, Europe, and even Japan, where secret CIA prisons, nicknamed black sites, were set up to test extreme torture techniques on real prisoners. They wanted to see how much pain the human brain could endure before breaking completely. In 1973, as whispers of MKUltra started leaking to the public, Gottlieb ordered all records of the program to be destroyed. Thousands of documents were shredded. The goal? To make sure no one would ever know the full extent of what happened. But some files survived. Enough to expose a government program more sinister than any conspiracy theory. The truth about MKUltra only came to light in the late 1970s, when a Senate investigation forced the CIA to admit the existence of these horrific experiments. But by then, it was too late. Gottlieb had retired, and many victims never got justice. What's even more terrifying? Some believe that these experiments never really stopped. After decades of running one of the most disturbing government programs in history, Sidney Gottlieb vanished into obscurity. He quietly retired to a small farm, living a simple life as if he hadn't spent years destroying minds in the name of science. Unlike his victims, he suffered no consequences. No prison time, no criminal charges, just a peaceful life far from the horrors he created. The victims of MKUltra were left to pick up the shattered pieces of their lives, if they survived at all. Families of those who mysteriously disappeared or died under suspicious circumstances fought for decades to get answers. Some, like the family of Frank Olson, continued to demand justice, believing he was murdered to cover up the program. but no real accountability ever came. In 1977, the US Senate finally uncovered some surviving documents on MKUltra, and the world got a horrifying glimpse into the darkest government secrets. The hearings revealed torture, illegal drugging, and psychological abuse. But with most of the files destroyed, the full truth remains buried. The CIA called it a mistake, a failed Cold War experiment. But to many, it was government-sponsored horror disguised as national security. Although the CIA claims MKUltra ended in the mid-1970s, some aren't convinced. The techniques Gottlieb developed, mind control, psychological torture, enhanced interrogation, are still in use today. Whistleblowers and declassified documents suggest that the experiments may have continued under different names. If that's true, how much do we really know about what happens behind closed doors? Sidney Gottlieb lived until 1999, giving only a handful of interviews where he brushed off the horrors he created. He claimed he was just following orders. But in his final days, he refused to speak about MKUltra, taking its darkest secrets to his grave. The question remains, what did he know that we never will? The chilling reality of MKUltra has inspired countless books, movies, and conspiracy theories. Films like The Manchurian Candidate and Stranger Things are loosely based on these experiments. But what's more terrifying than fiction? The real stories, the lives ruined, the minds broken, and the eerie possibility that similar projects still exist today. What's most terrifying is that many MKUltra victims had no idea they were test subjects. Some were dosed with LSD without consent. Others were imprisoned, brainwashed, or tortured under false pretenses. Could you be part of an experiment and not even know it? That's the chilling legacy of the CIA's mind control program. Governments justify extreme actions in the name of national security, but at what cost? The victims of MKUltra weren't criminals or terrorists. They were ordinary people, students, soldiers, mental patients, even unsuspecting civilians. Their suffering was hidden away, lost in classified documents. And those responsible? They walked free. History has shown that secrecy breeds horrors. If MKUltra could happen once, unchecked and undiscovered for decades, what's stopping another, more advanced version from existing today? How much do we really know about what governments are doing behind closed doors? Or worse, what they're willing to do to the people they claim to protect? The truth is, we may never know the full extent of Sidney Gottlieb's work. But one thing is clear. When the people in power are not held accountable, history has a dangerous way of repeating itself. If you found this story disturbing, make sure to subscribe for more real-life mysteries and hidden truths. And tell me in the comments, do you think these experiments ever truly stopped? Or is there still more we don't know?